G'day and welcome to this week's video. My name is Ashley Rowan and I'm a financial planner with Consortium Private Wealth. Today we're going to be talking about affording aged care, and in particular I want to pay attention to the least affordable financial position that a resident entering care can face. Now to start with, let's begin at the basics and go through the fees in aged care. All residents in aged care will be asked to pay a basic daily care fee, which is currently just over $51 per day. They may be asked to pay a means-tested care contribution, and this fee varies for everybody and it's calculated based against your income and assets. And finally, an accommodation payment will be asked to be paid by the resident and it's agreed upon on entry. So for example, under the lump sum method, this could be upwards of $400,000 as an example. Now there are also three different types of residents associated with residential aged care, and your resident type will dictate what fees you'll be asked to pay. Now for example, a fully supported resident would have assets below approximately $50,000 and all they'll be asked to pay is a basic daily care fee, so quite simple. A partially supported resident is generally someone with assets between $50,000 and up to approximately $170,000. Now they may be asked to pay a partial accommodation payment, so a partial lump sum, and also the basic daily care fee. And finally, most people fall under the standard resident category. They'll be asked to pay all three fees. So a large lump sum deposit, a basic daily care fee, and a means-tested care contribution. Now there's a common opinion, and I do agree with this, that you either need to have no money or to be quite wealthy in order to afford aged care. Now for example, when we reference no money, it's generally those with assets below $50,000 where you'll be a fully supported resident. On the other end of the spectrum, being quite wealthy, you can afford to pay your big large lump sum deposits plus all your ongoing fees. Now the risky scenario that I want to make light of is if you have assets between $170,000 and $400,000, this is where aged care affordability can be quite stretched. Now for example, given that the average accommodation deposit amount, particularly in our region, is around $400,000, many people under this scenario here will not have the means in order to pay their deposit off in full, therefore leaving unpaid amounts and high interest ongoing costs. Now the disadvantages for those people, as I mentioned, they cannot afford to pay their accommodation deposit in full. They may be forced to sell the home in order to come up with capital, so your strategies in which you could consider in order to afford your ongoing care costs become quite limited. Estate assets diminish over time. So as an example here, if you have a lump sum amount in cash that needs to be set aside in order to fund your ongoing care fees, now this is a particular estate asset that you may have wanted to pass on to the next generation. However, you may need to utilise this capital in order to afford care costs over the short term. And fees are going to be high, in particular the ongoing fees. So as an example of that, if you cannot afford to pay your deposit in full, you'll be charged ongoing interest costs, and the interest rate at the moment is just below 5% per annum, so quite expensive. Now, what can you do to increase affordability? Now, option number one, you can contribute some funds into the accommodation deposit as a lump sum. So as an example, let's say you have $200,000 in cash, and the accommodation deposit was quoted at $400,000. Now you may elect to contribute half your cash, so in this case it's $100,000 into the deposit, and as a result you'll reduce your ongoing fees by approximately $5,000 per year. Your next option is you can compare aged care facilities, particularly from a pricing point of view. So respite is an excellent opportunity where you can essentially try before you buy when it comes to residential aged care. So you can compare costs and you can compare services, so make sure you understand what your options are out there. Another option, your family can contribute funds on your behalf. So when it comes to paying these big lump sum deposits, it doesn't have to come from your own means. If you've got a son or daughter or a family member who's got the means to contribute on your behalf, this may help lower your ongoing fees. The only thing I suggest you do in that instance is make sure that the person entering residential aged care has an updated will to ensure that contribution made on your behalf is then refunded back to that person in the event of your passing, as all deposits get paid back to the estate and then get distributed via the will. And finally, maximise your income. So for example, in order to lower ongoing costs, and in this case you may have a house, and if it's empty, rent it out. Make sure you maximise your income producing capabilities. If that house isn't going to be sold to turn into liquid assets like cash, for example, make sure you make the most of it. Now, my advice would be take your time to research your options. Don't rush into any of these decisions, and absolutely seek the assistance of a qualified financial planner. I hope this information helped.